Rocky's next speakers are Rocky's children, Eric and Yuriko. Please join us.
Rocky Izumi passed away on March 1st, 2013 at the age of 59. He will be deeply missed by his colleagues and students here at GUST, by the Kendo and Aikido communities that honored him as sensei, by countless friends around the world, by his younger brother Judo Izumi, by his two children, myself, Yuriko Larson and Koichi, his son-in-law Eric Larson, and his loving wife Caroline.
Rocky began his studies at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon, Canada. Here he completed his Bachelor's of Science in Microbiology in 1976, with a focus in molecular genetics and minors in both biochemistry and sociology. During his tenure at the U of S, he also served as a lab instructor. One student who attended his lab was a young, beautiful nursing student named Carolyn Kwong. And perhaps it was the Sherlock Holmes-style hat or maybe his matching pipe, but something quickly swept Carolyn off her feet, and she was struck by this quirky young lab instructor. And on September 30th, 1978, they were married.
After receiving his bachelor's, Rocky pursued his interest in photography by opening his first business, a commercial photography company in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. It seemed as though the business world caught a hold of Rocky, as he then returned to the University of Saskatchewan to receive his master's in business and administration in 1983. The same year, Rocky first entered into fatherhood with the birth of his daughter, myself, Yuriko.
It was about this time that Rocky began to participate in Aikido. This Japanese martial art captured something in Rocky's heart, and he continued to be involved with it until his very last day. Rocky would go on to receive his 6th degree black belt with the title of Shihan, or Master Instructor. He would also receive his 3rd degree black belt in Kendo.
Rocky moved through various professional roles before deciding to pursue his PhD in management. This he completed with minors in marketing and psychology at Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas. While living in Lubbock, Carrie Rocky's family grew once again with the addition of their son, Koichi. It was here also that Rocky took on his trademark style of wearing a cowboy hat and boots.
Rocky's sense of adventure and love of travel then led him and his young family to Hong Kong, where he became an assistant professor at the University of Hong Kong. There, Rocky also continued to instruct individuals on security enforcement, be the key manager for various school projects, and proceed with his publications. After 4 years of the big city life, he decided to accept a position as associate professor at the University of Regina and move back to Canada in order to be closer to his aging parents.
Regina quickly became home. Rocky continued on with his involvement in Aikido and began instructing women's self-defense as well as training the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in unarmed police technique. Rocky's children grew up and completed their high school in Regina and went on to university. Rocky and Carrie, now finding themselves with an empty nest, decided it was time to once again go overseas for an adventure. They moved to Barbados in the Caribbean. There, Rocky instructed Kendo and Aikido while pursuing various business ventures with his consulting company. While in Barbados, Rocky was commissioned with the leadership of a job evaluation exercise for the Ministry of Civil Service. He also developed the law enforcement education program for the Royal Barbados Police Force. And of course, he did all of this while achieving his scuba dive instructor certification and capturing beautiful underwater photography.
Then in 2008, Rocky and his wife Carrie moved to Kuwait, and Rocky became a part of GUST. And through the past 5 years, he has become an admired teacher, a trusted colleague, and an integral part of this university. Rocky's life experiences, as well as his numerous business and academic successes, truly are impressive and inspiring. However, what we value most about him was the way he touched each of our hearts, as a husband, a father, a coworker, and as a friend. Rocky loved people. He loved people not in a general sense, but in an individual, heartfelt way. He loved to instruct and to listen, and he did this daily, ensuring that people understood that they mattered. He loved to make people laugh, utilizing his quirky sense of humor and even laughing at himself. He loved enough to be loyal, and that's evident by the people here and the long-standing relationships that we represent. And he loved to give. and he continually gave of his time and his energy to each of us.
The impact that Rocky, my father, has made academically and professionally will be remembered, but the impact that he has made on each of our hearts is how Rocky continues to live on today. The memory of his teaching, his mentorship, and his friendship will continue to shape and mold our lives, and we are all the better for it. Thank you.
GUST is a relatively young university, merely 10 years old. And yet it has crossed many milestones of success in large part because of its faculty, many of whom are present here today. But a faculty is only as good as its Vice President of Academic Affairs, who is our next speaker. Rocky frequently acknowledged the accomplishments of Dr. Robert Cook. He would be particularly pleased to know that Dr. Cook is here today representing GUST senior management. And following Dr. Cook's remarks, please enjoy our second musical interlude, a violin solo. Now, Dr. Cook.
I believe I was the first person from GUST to meet Dr. Izumi. It was in St. Louis in the spring of 2008. 2008 was a watershed year for this university because we moved into this building. We were expanding all the departments, and we were thinking about going for AACSB accreditation. And as you've heard, Rocky has a wonderful experience in academia and in consulting, and this was something very valuable for us because most of our faculty at that time had excellent academic credentials, but had not done much in the way of outreach. So it was very important to get Rocky here. Now, we met in St. Louis on a cold February morning. I can tell you it was February 27th. And you know, when you meet someone for the first time, you have some small talk. So we talked a little bit about our trip to St. Louis. I had come from Kuwait, and St. Louis was 15 degrees colder than Kuwait. He shrugged his shoulders. He said, I'm coming from Saskatchewan, and St. Louis is 15 degrees warmer than Saskatchewan. Anyway, we went on. We had a wonderful interview. You heard about his CV, and with his experience, it made sense to make Rocky an offer. It's interesting, Rocky, I think many of you who have met him for the first time, one of the sentences he'll always come up with very short in the engagement is, you can call me Rocky. And of course, everyone here remembers him as Rocky, a very warm individual. What I'm going to try to do today is talk about what his contributions have been to GUST. As you've been told, his experience was impressive. And he had experience that we needed at GUST. You can quote a country song. The country song is that Rocky could talk the talk and walk the walk when it came to business. He had that practical experience, and that was going to be very valuable for us. In the fall of 2008, as was mentioned, Rocky and Carrie arrived on campus. They both fit in the community, made friends, and got involved in various activities. Of course, for Rocky, there were the martial arts, but he also had time to play golf and was involved in precision shooting. Carrie became a member of the Ahmadi Singers, the Kuwait Textile Association, and the Kuwait Quilting Guild. She also helped organize events for women on campus. We know that Rocky had an excellent administrative experience, and we made use of it here by appointing him as Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs. So as well as working in that position, he was also working on the accreditation efforts. And there are two things that I want to point out where he made the most valuable contributions. As a young institution, there are always going to be curriculum changes, evolutions, new faculty coming with new courses. And it was obvious to us back in 2009 that we were losing track of all of these changes. So Rocky developed a very effective program that made all of these changes accessible to the whole community and was able to track them. And this solved a huge problem for us, because if we're going for accreditation efforts, having these accreditation people visit us, they must know how we keep track and what we do with our curriculum. But the other area has already been alluded to, and that is what he did to help us develop our AACSB accreditation document. The most difficult aspect of this document is how you assess learning. And it was his heroic efforts in this past year that allowed us to prepare a document that was acceptable to the AACSB. And now we're on our way and waiting for a site visit next year to get this very important level of accreditation for our program. But even these things pale in significance when compared to his contribution as a teacher and colleague. What makes a good teacher? A good teacher, among other things, is someone who really enjoys it. It's just not a job to him. A good teacher is someone who respects his students and does whatever he can to make sure that they succeed. I think each and every one of us can go back into our memories and remember people who have influenced us this way, who have made us go further than we thought we could go, and helped us persevere in our goals. So this is the most important element and the most important contribution that Rocky made to this university, is that he was an excellent teacher. And I'm sure his students will remember him well on into their careers, because he's had a tremendous effect on the students here at GUST. There is an old Japanese proverb, which I think describes it more than anything else. And it goes like this: better than 1,000 days of diligent study is one day with a great teacher. And I think that is Rocky. I have received messages of condolences for the Izumi family and GUST from Drs. Joel Glassman and Milton Blood of the University of Missouri in St. Louis. They're our sister institution. And I would just like to quote what Dr. Blood wrote. I was shocked to hear about Rocky's passing. I imagine everyone at GUST reacted similarly. Rocky's relentless enthusiasm and can-do approach to the world was one of the things I looked forward to on my visits to GUST. His energy always seemed to be pressing forward. His loss will be felt deeply by the GUST community. I consider myself a part of that community, and I am sad for the absence of this intense force among us. My condolences and prayers go out to his family and to all of GUST. We're all here today feeling the loss of the Izumi family, Carrie, Yuriko, Koichi, and Eric. We can only imagine the anguish that they feel. And I can assure them that our thoughts and our prayers will be with them. Thank you.
Dr. Nasruddin Saduli, who for the previous 3 years served as the head of our department, and all of us appreciate Dr. Nasruddin for his dedication to our department and for his collegiality and for his commitment to teaching. He in turn appreciated Rocky for these same qualities.
After what has been said, I find myself at a desperate loss of words to describe Rocky's contribution to our department, his legacy in our department. I mean, since he joined, Rocky was a man that was very difficult to miss because of the way he looked, the way he talked, the way he laughed, and above all, the way he stood up firmly for what he believed in. Rocky's contributions were nothing less than monumental in all facets of the department's business. He was never hesitant to take the initiative and lend a helping hand when almost everyone else seemed rather careless and apathetic. His tenacious undertaking of the redesign of the management courses, his pertinacious pursuit of excellence in the AACSB accreditation process, his persevering attention to detail and structure of the curriculum review process and work at the department, college, and university levels, and above all of that, his willingness to give so generously without ever asking for anything in return. I could be a witness of that. He was so flexible in schedules, he was so flexible with his time, and he never asked for anything in return indeed. I had many conversations with Rocky about the world we live in and its intricacies. Rocky couldn't be farther from the mainstream perspective on things. He was able to cut through the many layers of deceit, propaganda, and essentially see the other sides of the story. To me, having those frequent morning conversations with Rocky was an escape from the dullness and superficiality of the many mundane encounters we go through day after day after day. When I heard of Rocky's death and the way he died, I could only think of what Shakespeare wrote. You see cowards die many times before their deaths. The valiant never taste of death but once. Rocky's valor was inspiring to all those fortunate enough to cross paths with him. What a great privilege it has been to have worked with Rocky for the past few years. He changed so many lives for the better, and although a light has faded in our chandelier, GUST, Rocky's memory will live on through his work and his teachings. You see, those we love remain with us. For love itself lives on, cherished memories never fade because a loved one is gone. Those we love can never be more than a thought apart. For as long there is a memory, for as long as there is a memory, they live on in our hearts. Thank you.
Students gravitated to Rocky for all the reasons that you can imagine, many of the things that have been said here already.